Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you here to the home of Kickham's GA Club. We're in Dundrum. We're going to preview the All-Ireland U20 Hurling Championship final. It's Tipperary taking on Offaly in Kilkenny, Saturday evening, 7:15. Michael McCarthy and John O'Shea both join me here. But first of all, John, we're going to look back, first of all, at the Munster final against Cork.
Yes, Stevie, last Friday night down in the Gaelic grounds in Limerick there, we went down there, I suppose, high hopes. We had beaten Cork in the round robin there earlier on in the year, and we felt that probably Cork weren't up to their full that night, and they were going to shove it up against us on Friday night, and that's what they done, Stevie. But this bunch of lads that was there, we hadn't much hope for them probably at the outset. It was more a sort of a 2-year process there, building up for next year, But lo and behold, anyway, we found ourselves in the final against Cork, and it was a good, exciting game from the start. They played with heart, they played with a bit of skill, and I suppose in the finish, we got the rub of the green and we got a couple of lucky breaks, and we're the Munster champions. And that brings us into next Saturday evening in Nolan Park. Probably something in the All-Ireland final, something maybe 2 months ago we wouldn't have dreamt of.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying that. Michael McCarthy is here with us as well as usual. And Michael, when you look back at the Cork match, it was nearly score for score, wasn't it?
It was, Stevie. I thought it was a very tentative first half. Both teams were very cagey. There were sweepers on either side. Ben Corrivan was dropping back for us. It was, as you said, score for score there in the first half. There was only a point in it going in at half time. Darragh McCarthy, I suppose, overall was the star of the game and was very prolific from frees, and in the second half he scored 3 points himself from play. Of the 7 frees he scored, he won 3 of those frees himself as well, so he was kind of our main go-to guy on the night. But I think John used a very operative word there, heart. I think that's a word we can describe this team as, because it's certainly something that they don't lack for. Every game their work rate is outstanding, and it seems to be tantamount of this team. 13 of the team that started on Friday night is underage again next year, so that's huge positive looking forward to next year. They're nearly a year ahead of schedule with Brendan Cummins.
Even coming through the Munster campaign itself, Michael, it was just so positive when you see we only leaked in 1 goal over the 5 matches. That's
right, and that goal was from a penalty as well, a fairly dodgy penalty down in Rathkeale in the first half. Yeah, from that first night in Rathkeale, I think that team set the tone of the way they were going to play for the year, and that was evident over the four games. As we said there, they won by 12 points against Cork in round 3 of the competition, which was a huge result. But like Cork were always going to come back, and they made a couple of changes from that team. They had a guy in at wing forward who hadn't been on the panel that night, and he started, and Willem Buckley went out to centre forward. He had played full forward that night, and I suppose it was his shot that kind of dropped in under the crossbar that we got the lucky break on for the goal that wasn't given. He's a very exciting forward. I think he's one that we'll see in Cork colours in years to come.
In the Leinster hurling final, it was Offaly that came through, our opponents in the All-Ireland final. Dublin were very good opposition, but Offaly just proved too good on the night.
They did indeed. They won by 3 points in the end, and they were 6 up going into injury time, and conceded a goal to Dublin after one of the pitch invasions. I think there was 2 pitch invasions before the game finished. But I suppose similar to our team, that Offaly team has a lot of guys that are underage again next year. I won't say they're a year ahead of schedule, because they were in the final again last year against Cork, losing out 2-22 to 3-13. But yeah, they're a very exciting team. Back to Nolan Park to play Tip again. They didn't mind, I suppose, whether it was Tip or Cork they were playing. They had revenge on their mind regardless of who they were playing against. But yeah, they're a very, very exciting team.
Now, Michael, while I have you, we're now moving on to the All-Ireland final, 7:15, Nolan Park in Kilkenny. A lot of people will be disappointed because they cannot get tickets for the game because it's restricted to a certain what is it, 24, 25,000?
Yeah, I think 24, 25,000 is the capacity. Look, I think it's great. It's creating a brilliant atmosphere. Everyone is looking for tickets. Everyone wants to go. This Offaly team has really caught the hearts of the Offaly public. They probably get a better support than their Joe McDonough team. But yeah, as a game, I think it'll be a cracker. It'll be very, very tight. They know each other so well, these teams. Adam Screeney obviously is the star of that Offaly team. He's the star of the Offaly senior team, I would say, as well at this point. He has a real bright future ahead of him. Free taker, very charismatic, and even saw the interviews after the Dublin game. He came across very well, really well grounded young man. So yeah, look, really looking forward to the game. Has the makings of a cracker.
John, while we're previewing the game, Adam Screeney, he's going to take a serious amount of watching.
He's going to take a serious amount of watching, but look at that's a fairly mean Tip full back line, you know, and we haven't conceded. I think Mike said 1 goal there in the championship. Suppose we've lost the chap there from Feather, Jack Quinlan there, got through a bad injury that night down in Waterford. Now, he possibly would have been playing. Now, he was on that minor team 2 years ago as well, you know. Tip has fought, I think Mike said 12 of them young enough for next year. Some of the lads that, you know, didn't make the minors, they're the starting 15 2 years ago. They've you know, they have pushed on a bit and moved up, and Offaly are probably in the same way. They're getting a lot of scores up, but he said that support, that particular bunch of young fellas for Offaly, they're getting huge support. They're probably getting huge, you know, young support. A lot of kids, a lot of teenagers following them, you know, and I suppose they have probably something in their favour that Tip mightn't have. I think there's 6 or 7 there from Kilcormac Killahey, and they were on the Kilcormac schools team. They won a Leinster B, but they were also on the Offaly schools team in the Leinster Championship, to be the equivalent, the Leinster Harty Cup for the want of a better word. And they won that there 2 years ago. They were beaten in the final there just last year by Kieran's. I think it's only a couple of pints in the finish, 26 pints or something. You know.
So basically, they're gaining huge experience at post-primary schools level.
They're gaining experience, but they're playing together. You see, that's the difference. You know,
it's all about playing as a unit.
And they're playing as a team, and they know one another, and that's probably where they have an advantage, maybe over Tip at the moment. But look at 2 years ago down in Nolan Park in that minor final, like. I think Offaly led 6 pints at half time. What was it? 1 something to 10 pints or something. But they only scored 6 pints in the second half, and Tip scored 110, including that goal at the death by Paddy McCormack, you know, who unfortunately won't be available on Sunday because he's out through injury. But I suppose his replacement that came in there, young Foley there from Borrisokane, he chipped in with 3 pints last week against Cork in that Munster final.
And a very notable hurler.
It was, yeah, and he was centre field on that minor team 2 years ago.
Michael McCarthy, this year so far, 5 games also for Offaly in the Leinster Championship, but they've leaked 8 goals.
Yeah, and Tip have been scoring goals, I suppose. Stevie and young casual forward there, Oisin O'Donoghue, who only just turned 18 this year, has 4 of them. He's 4'11" from play, which is phenomenal for an 18-year-old who had played in the backs as a minor only last year. He's having a wonderful season. Really has come on, progressed, and very exciting prospect here in West Tipperary. And Senan Butler also, he has 4-6 scored. And 3 of them came in that game against Cork in the round robin. So yeah, look, I suppose Tip go after goals, and Offaly, as you said, are leaking them. But John mentioned that Paddy McCormack is missing for Tip, and he's a broken thumb as well, I think. But Dan Ravenhill, who is an Offaly senior, is missing for Offaly. He tore his hamstring in the first round of the Joe McDonough against Laois and hasn't been seen since. Now, Leo O'Connor was asked about it lately, and he said that they wouldn't chance him. wooden chancey means there's probably a chance that he could be around. He scored 1-4 in the final.
The door open, isn't it?
Yeah, he scored 1-4 in the final last year, like as an 18-year-old. So he would be a big plus for them if he was around this weekend, or even the following weekend in the Joe McDonagh final. And I think Offaly will probably need to look at what really is the most important game for them in the next 2 weeks. But tip forwards have been going well. There's a good spread of scores, a good spread of clubs involved in that tip team.
John, if you look at the Tipperary team itself, I would imagine Brendan Cummins is going to be saying, hey guys, you're getting a chance of raising a green flag, go for it, don't hang off it.
Yeah, well, that's what they've been doing, you know, and Mike spoke there about O'Shea Donohoe there from Cashel. Like, he just seems to be a natural. Like, he has that instinct, and a goal is on his mind. I think there was one there against, was it Clare inside in Thurles in the last game.
But John,
it was over the bar, but he went for the goal, and it just, you know what I mean?
But it's in his DNA. He didn't lick it off the ground.
No, he didn't. And I mean, look, there's a huge pedigree there. Like, I mean, all the Donohoes were able to hurl with distinction, like, you know what I mean, going back in the day. And then, you know, as you said, he didn't lick it off the ground. But for a young fella of 18, and he's coming in, but he's you know what, he's after developing over the last 12 months. He's grown into a fine lad. And, you know, he's putting it up on the scoreboard. He was on that Harty Cup team there in Cashel 2 years ago. Now, he has come on in leaps and bounds, and I think he's probably the one player out of all them lads in that Harty Cup final, the Thurles and the Cashel team, that has progressed and came on, you know. And, you know, I'd say he's probably getting a lot of coaching and a lot of encouragement at home as well.
Which that's obvious, and even coming from his uncles as well, Michael. I would imagine he's not short of.
Not at all. His uncle Ronnie won an All-Ireland minor in '96. There with Tip, and of course Shawnee, his father Shawnee, hurled with distinction for Cashel all down the years, and hurled for Tip as well. So yeah, there's a fierce pedigree there. But this Tip team, I think, like, they're certainly all playing for each other, real team ethic. I mean, we're here in Dundrum. Adam Daly was outstanding in the final the last day, but sacrificed his game, went to man-mark one of Cork's better forwards, and like was
did a very good job.
Well, yeah, certainly did. Was willing to do it. Probably didn't see as much ball as Adam would like, but like that was what was laid out for him. He did the job. Tip came out winners, and he's got a Munster under 20 medal in his back pocket. Like, it just goes to show the character of these guys.
Michael, how do you think that they're going to approach the final on Saturday evening? If we go back first of all to, we've the Munster final now looked at, the Munster Championship is now looked at. They're preparing for an All-Ireland final. It's fast approaching. How do you think they're going to prepare within 24 hours from the Friday evening?
Well, I suppose, look, they'll have all everything will be put in place for them. They'll have their dietitian will be telling them how to prepare their water intake, just to relax and make sure they get their sleep.
Well relaxed, and yeah,
absolutely. Maybe go for a few pucks if that's what, or just do what I suppose what is natural for them in the lead up to it. Probably a long day on Saturday, which doesn't help. But I presume they'll probably meet in the Horse and Jockey on Saturday at some time, and then travel from there down to Nolan Park and get ready for the game. I mean, I suppose while the Offaly and Offaly players will certainly be in their thoughts, and how do they manage, I suppose, a guy like Adam Screeney, like Shane Rigney, who have been around the place, they'll certainly be thinking about that. But essentially it'll come down to how Tip play and the performance that they need to get out, because if they perform themselves, they're perfectly good enough to win it.
John, as Michael said a little bit earlier, we're here in Dundrum. It is the home of Adam Daly. It's also the home of Owen Horgan. His puck outs are going to be crucial.
They are going to be crucial, and he's well able to do it. And also he could pop up there with a long range free there as well. He's capable of doing that. Nice keeper now. I suppose had the rub of the green the other night. But you need that. Like, all goalkeepers need that. All teams need that. You can only take the look that's presented to you there. And he didn't know. He played that ball, and that was it. And if it was a goal, it was a goal. And it turned out it wasn't a goal.
And the six in front of him, they have to be on their toes.
They have to be on their toes. They are on their toes, and in fairness now, they are up to it. Very, very solid. That chap there, Halloran there from Carrick. A very, very solid performer, you know. Podge Dwyer there, and Chris O'Donnell there, you know, an all south team. I suppose an interesting thing about it is there has been no mid-man on the starting 15, with the exception of, I think, the second game against Waterford, where Owen Craddock came in there for the suspended Paddy McCormack at that stage. And then last week, Foley started instead of McCormack, and then Joe Egan came in. But look, you know what, an awful lot of young lads like that, because let's face it, they're still only young lads, will probably depend on the support that they get. Nowlan Park is a lovely venue, but we didn't have down in Limerick last Friday night, there was only 3,400 there, something like that, and probably Tip had probably 2,000 of them, you know, roughly. And I think that included children as well, Mike, did it? Because they were in the numbers. Look, there will definitely be a bigger Tip crowd in Nowlan Park on Saturday evening, and them players needed. But something came there just late on this evening there, that some of the allocation that Tip got, were sent back today. I think that the tickets had to be back by 2 o'clock. That surplus that went back now is being offered to the Offaly clubs. I think they're going to offer them 30 tickets per head, and that's probably what...
John, can you explain in more detail the tickets that came back? Came back from where?
The clubs in Tipperary, you see. Tipperary looked for an allocation off the county board there for their clubs, to distribute through the clubs rather than Ticketmaster and that has been the way. Offaly didn't seemingly at the time. And
was it a case of that they didn't get them, or they didn't look for them?
They didn't look for them, according to Michael Dignan anyway. We can only go with what he said. His advice was that they shouldn't look for them, I think, seemingly from Croke Park. But whatever, Stevie, it's probably a sellout. What's about 23,000 now? 24,000 in Nowlan Park. Offaly, I think, will definitely have the bigger support. But look, we don't mind that. They had it probably.
But John, is it disappointing that the clubs here in Tipperary have sent back tickets?
Well, look, there could be reasons for it, you know. See, maybe, like if you take it, just say there was, I don't know, how many clubs in Offaly? 60 clubs by 30. That says there's 1,800 tickets gone back. There's all sorts of reasons why there wasn't an uptake. Because probably people already had them bought on Ticketmaster. You see, that's probably the reason. I don't know the reason for it, but there was a bit of controversy during the week that there wasn't enough tickets available. They were talking about the game was fixed too early in Nowlan Park by the authorities, and I think I go along with that. There's a lot of things. We're all GM in, you know, but you get fed up really trying to back up what it is, because they've made an awful lot of mistakes lately, the GA hierarchy, and you know, on small little things that catches them out, and it gets the gander up of the followers, the paying public, and it did on this occasion as well, because people now they started throwing in. There's a bit of the pitch wasn't up to scratch for the match last Sunday against Wexford down there, and there's probably 20% of the surface there not grassy. You know, whether it will be sorted out for Sunday or not, I don't know. But whatever, you know. But the only way I'd look at that is what's good for Tip is good for Offaly, and you know they'll overcome that. But I suppose on the other question of, you know, should the match have been fixed for Nowlan Park, probably the decision was made too early in the year, because they didn't take into account the following that Offaly have, because I think normally at an under 20 game you'd be talking about 10,000-12,000, I think, traditionally about that.
15,000.
Michael, if I could get your views on that, please.
Yeah, I suppose I would disagree a little bit with John. I don't have a real problem with it being in Nowlan Park. It's the 100th.
But what about the surface, Michael, after Bruce Springsteen concert?
Yeah, well, I suppose, look, that's something that needs to be looked at, about the scheduling of these concerts in the middle of Championship. It happened back in 2019. Ed Sheeran played in Salt Hill, and Galway and Kilkenny had to play on what was effectively a beach. There was so much sand on it because of the tyre tracks. I think on Monday morning, just as they were taking out the stage, the rain came and the crane was in to lift out the stage, and that's where the marks came from. But I mean, John is right. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. It's going to be bad for both teams. Just on Nowlan Park, that was picked as the venue early in the time because it's the 100th anniversary memory of James Nolan, who the Under-20 Cup is named after. So I suppose that's why it was picked for that venue.
That's why Nolan Park was the chosen venue for that.
There was 15,000 at the Leinster final in Portlaoise as well. So and the majority of them would have been Offaly supporters, I suppose. But so yeah, I suppose the public have got behind them even more, I suppose, since. But there was a sizable crowd of Offaly people there at that time as well.
Michael, we have gone through our defence, we've gone through one of our midfielders as well, so now we're going to go from midfield to 15.
Yeah, from midfield, one of the guys that plays in the middle of the field and has been there all year is Sam O'Farrell from Nina. He looks like he scored 3 points the last day, but I think it's his work rate and just the size and the way he carries himself. I think he's a guy that has I think I said it to you, Stevie, from the very start of the year that he's a guy I could see wearing a senior jersey in years to come. He really has all the look of it. He's been a constant there in the middle of the field along with Adam. Up front, then I suppose Conor Martin is there at centre forward. Kieran Foley there, as John had mentioned, from Borsakane, while he was wearing number 14, kind of played out at wing forward the last day.
He have a habit of drifting out.
Yeah, with O'Shea drifting in, and they tend to switch positions as the game is going on, and then you have Darren McCarthy coming out looking for a ball, and I mean he scored a wonder point to win the game last week after Cork had levelled it, or was it I think it was a wide ball actually, but Owen Horgan hit it down his left hand side as he was looking down. The ball broke, and I suppose Darren McCarthy had the wherewithal to know where the goals were, swung it over the shoulder and it landed. I suppose it was a shot to nothing, as in if he'd had missed it we were going to extra time, but he landed it. It was a peach of a point, and it just I think he's a guy that has star quality. I suppose interestingly, as I think John mentioned earlier on, he was a sub on the minor team 2 years ago, and now he's our star. And then we have Cahill English there from Father Sheehy's at wing forward, and his brother won a minor on the Monday night in the goal.
And I don't think that English went as well in the Munster final as we were expecting.
No, he had a very good round robin campaign, and was a real outball there for Owen Horgan, especially from, it was in general play and from puck outs. But obviously he had his cards marked by the Cork guys in the Munster final, and probably wasn't as prominent. But it didn't seem to be. It was a game kind of for workers, I thought, Stevie. There was. It was over and back. There wasn't any real flow to it, I would say. As I said, Darren McCarthy scored 7 or 8 frees. There was equal amount of frees on the Cork side.
Michael, while we're talking about Darren McCarthy and the frees, he have an unusual style. It kind of frustrates the opposition a little bit, and especially the supporters. Well,
it certainly frustrated the supporters on Friday night, Stevie. Yeah, he does. I suppose he lines it up, and he's nearly standing over the ball, and then he steps back and tests the wind, and then takes his shot. But
a bit of grass into the air.
That's right, yeah. Look, I suppose the Cork crowd were getting onto him, and I'm sure the Offaly crowd will have seen that and will do that again on Saturday evening, but it doesn't seem
it's just his technique.
It's his technique. It doesn't seem to get under his skin either. He's a very, very good free taker, very accurate.
Call it.
Well, sure. I suppose the heart would always say tip, and I think they're the bookies' favourites going into it. It wouldn't surprise me if it was a draw at 60 minutes. I think these two teams are very, very evenly matched. I think it'll be very close.
John, Michael is thinking that he wouldn't be surprised if it was a draw. Well, hopefully there'll be plenty of light there to bring us in extra time. What is your view then?
Yeah, that could be. I hope it doesn't go to extra time, especially if it's an old dark evening or a bad evening down there. I'd like to see the game finishing there after 60 minutes. It's going to be interesting, because there was an interesting thing that Mike said there. Darren McCarthy is the star of this year on that team, both from play and frees. And I suppose, especially in the last 10 minutes against Cork there, he sort of was isolated inside with the Cork full back, and he had the ability to outpace him, to get out in front, and he got fouled a couple of times as well, and for the frees. But as I said before here, he was a sub on that team 2 years ago in the minor, And he was one of the few players on that minor team that came from a senior club. And I remember saying it at the time, a lot of these young lads, what will they do when they reach 18 years of age and they're playing adult? Last year, 2023, 18 years of age, playing senior with Toomevara in the county championship, distinguished himself with it, got hurler of the year in North Tipperary. And it backs up my opinion on it, that these guys, when they reach 18, adult hurling, they need to play at a high grade, and he's proof of it. And he has brought that on to this year. Now, if you take it through the Harty Cup campaign with Nina CBS, I think they were beaten in the quarterfinal, was it? The semi-final in the All-Ireland by a point. But the point I'm trying to make it, he was playing at the highest grade with a good Toomevara team last year. And it's shown this year at under 20. And he's young enough for next year again, isn't he? At 20. What I'm saying is that it's a gradual progression, but the fact that he was playing senior, I think, has helped that progression, brought him on a lot. Oisin Donoghue was the same way. He was last year, 2023 was his first year. Wasn't he a senior? He's a senior this year, is he?
No, this is his first year.
This is his first year. And I'll tell you one thing, he's training inside with Cashel, and they're Premier Intermediate, but they're as good as a senior team. I can see him, progressing at the same rate. But to get back to next Sunday evening,
Saturday evening.
Saturday evening, I should say. Yeah, I think Tip, everything is going from this team this year. They're on a roll. They have the capabilities. They have the hurlers. They have the heart. And I think they'll get over the line in Nowlan Park on Saturday evening.
Last week they helped Bruce Springsteen rocking the crowd and keeping the crowd on their toes. Who is it going to be this weekend? Is it going to be Offaly or Tipperary that will be singing the tunes? All will be revealed later on Saturday night.